Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Today we're going to talk about promoting in Fire Emblem and when the best time to do it is. And this guide is going to be more focused on the older games in the series. I will briefly touch on Three Houses now at the beginning, but we're going to move into the older games that I hope many of you will get into if you haven't yet. And before we get started with that, I do want to give a shout out to the stream tonight. Tonight around 7 p.m. I say around because I am caring for my child while Maggie's out of town, so I can't really have a set time. It's just whenever she decides she's tired enough to go to bed tonight, I will hop on. So it should be around 7. That's what I'm going to plan for, and that's 7 p.m. Pacific time. So make sure to come for that. So the Three Houses Chat Sabotage, it's going to be a blast. We're on Chapter 6. I can't use Lysithea this chapter. I think I'm also banned on Leone this chapter, so those two of my most important and best units at this point. So I'm going to probably get dunked on pretty hard. And there's also a donation incentive for Divine Pulse to be unusable and stuff, so we'll see how it goes. So again, like I said, I'll start in Three Houses. Promoting in Three Houses is super basic. I would always suggest just certifying into new classes whenever you can. But with one caveat being, stay in a class if you want the mastery ability until you get the mastery ability. For instance, if you are in Myrmidon and you haven't mastered it yet, I would suggest, I think the speed +2 and more importantly, the movement combat art, which gives you a lot of, that just gives a lot of utility in the future and things you can switch around. Swap's not my favorite one, but I think it is still very usable. So rather than right when you hit level 10, changing into a mercenary, maybe certify into it if you want. But I would say spend a little more time in Myrmidon to master the class. But mastering classes usually goes pretty quickly, especially in the early game with the lower level classes, especially once you get the Saint statues developed a little bit, so you get extra class experience in battle and whatnot. So really just promote whenever you can, because you're going to get better stats and stuff, but also it's not a bad idea to stick in a class that you want the mastery ability for, really what it comes down to. Alright, now I want to talk about older games in the series, and this really isn't going to apply to like Fates, Awakening. It's not even really going to apply to Echoes or Gaiden either, but I want to talk about this in relation to most of the games in the series. It also doesn't apply to Genealogy: The Holy War, which is the 4th game in the series, just because promoting in that game, there's no reason not to promote as soon as possible. Literally zero reason. Literally zero. The same kind of goes for Gaiden and Echoes in my opinion, but there's some people that will say in Echoes it's good to wait and get as many stats as you can or whatever. But I personally just promote right away. But it's a more interesting debate and topic in between FE1, FE3, and then FE5 through FE12. That's when I think this topic is really interesting. So I think a lot of us look at promotion, and I don't want to say we look at it wrong, but I think a lot of us do. A lot of us look at it as this chance to get back to level 1 and have more time to grow, which in some cases that can be really what it's for. And that's why I didn't really want to talk about Awakening or Fates, because a lot of times that's how it feels. Especially Awakening, where stat growths are insane in Awakening. You're going to get 6 or 7 stats almost every level up in Awakening. It's ridiculous. But that's less the case in the other games. Okay. So with that logic, you think, okay, I'll get to level 20, and then I'll promote and have 20 more levels to improve my character, to get stats upon level up. But I think it's much more important to look at a promotion as a stat booster. We got stat boosters in all the games. You got whether it's energy drops or speed wings or the boots that help you move farther or whatever else. A promotion item allows a unit to receive boosts in almost every single stat. And again, depending on the game, it differs. But generally, you get 1 or 2 points in every stat, including movement a lot of times, and your weight or constitution, which is important for the GBA games. So yeah, look at it like a stat booster. And a lot of times it even raises weapon ranks in games. So that can be a really important thing, especially when it comes to staff weapon experience in Thracia 776 or FE5. So that's important to keep in mind. Number 2, you need to think about, what do I gain from this promotion? Does this unit really need it? And is it going to actually help me, perform better in the following chapters? Example, in FE9, which is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, a lot of people like to talk about, or a lot of people like to promote Reese, which is your early game healer, with the first Master Seal you get. And that's mainly because, when he promotes, he gets attack magic. So that is actually an interesting thought. That gives him the ability to use light magic rather than just be a healer, so he can deal some damage on player phase if you need him to. But here's a problem with that. By the time you get that first Master Seal, you don't have an opportunity. Really, there aren't any light magic weapons to give to Reese. So the promotion essentially just gives him better stats, but he's still stuck to basically just healing things, right? So it doesn't really feel like he gains that much. Well, he gains a lot, but it doesn't feel like you or your army gain a whole lot. So you got to think about that. In my opinion, in a similar situation, a similar time frame of the game, if you say have Soren at like level 12, 13, 14, 15, anywhere in there, and you feel comfortable promoting him, I would say that's much more useful than promoting Reese at that time. Because where Reese gets an attack magic that's honestly pretty bad, light isn't that good in Path of Radiance, and it's not very available, especially if you promote him like as early as possible. Whereas Soren will get the ability to use staves, meaning he can heal, and staves are very plentiful, and it's great if you can get him staves early to start working on his staff rank ASAP to get him to be able to use Physic. Because he starts off just using heal, but then you get to men, and then you get to that. Get to the next one, C, which is Physic and whatnot. So I think that is definitely more worth it. You got to think about, what is it going to add to my army? Then there's cases like in Thracia 776, where stat caps are so low and promotion adds so much to some units that there are certain units that you just want to promote right away, almost no matter what. Someone like Asbel. Asbel in FE5, he's an early game mage that I almost always give the first promotion item to, because his promotion is just insane. He gets a ton of magic. He gets like 6 or 7 speed from promotion. It just makes him a force to be reckoned with. And on top of that, he's able to use healing staves at that point, and makes him a much better unit. So that's one that I think is worthy to point out. And finally, are there any instances in Fire Emblem where just promoting, you just shouldn't promote? And I can't think of any outright in the series. I can think of one idea outside of Fire Emblem, but it's still made by Shozukaga, who basically, it's basically Fire Emblem with a different name. And that is in Tearing Saga, which is a PlayStation 1 game that is it literally is Fire Emblem without being called Fire Emblem. And if you haven't played it and you're a big Fire Emblem fan, there's literally no reason not to. There's a great translation patch. PS1 emulation is not that difficult and not that hard on your PC, especially with a game so graphically. Honestly, it looks like it could be on a Super Nintendo in terms of its graphic quality. Like, just go try it. Go play this game. It's really good. Anyways, the Pegasus Knights in Tearing Saga are really, really interesting. So they have a really high magic stat, and there is a really potent sword that is buyable relatively early on in the game, and you also just get one before then in the Levin sword, or like the Thunder sword, Lightning sword. And an extremely good option is Pegasus Knight with a Levin sword. So it gives them 1-2 range. They hit on magic or hit on resistance, which is typically the lower defense stat. And so you have these really high movement units that can just dunk on enemies with magic, right? When they promote, they lose a lot of their magic ability. They get a little higher move. They're able to use lances indoors, which is nice, but missing out on the ability to use the Levin sword effectively is just super painful. So I almost never want to promote a Pegasus Knight to a Dragon Rider in Tearing Saga. That's just an example I thought of where I just wanted to point out something where you would literally never want to promote. Anyways, those are my thoughts on promotion. What it really comes down to is, what is it going to add to your army? Like, is it, as far as early promotion goes, and otherwise just kind of do what you want. You know, I hope this video doesn't come across as like elitist or me telling you how to play your game. Do whatever you want. These are just general tips, because I know a lot of people have some anxiety about promoting units early, or making sure they get every stat point possible because they're worried they're going to get locked in the end game. Don't worry about that. Every game in the series has been beaten with 0% growths on, which means every level up, the units are guaranteed to get 0 stats. And I shouldn't say every game, but I think every game at this point, and almost every difficulty. I think there's a few that haven't been done. But for the most part, it's always doable. So don't be afraid. If you have, your a level 12 Cavalier in like Blazing Sword or Sacred Stones or something, don't be afraid to promote him if you want another mounted unit with a ton of move. It's okay, just do it, Anyways, just play the games how you want, but those are just some of my tips. Think about what it's going to add to your army. Is a promotion of a unit really going to be useful to you, or is it not really going to change much? Is it going to enhance the unit's abilities right then, right there? Or is it the kind of thing where you just get a unit that's like slightly more stronger and it's not going to matter? But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe for more Fire Emblem content. We put out videos. I try to every weekday. Sometimes I miss because I'm a busy guy. But don't forget tonight's stream at around 7 p.m. Pacific time. Again, it all depends on how much the little one wants to go to sleep tonight. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. Catch you next time, guys.